I'm Ryan, this is my brother Daniel, and this is Roles in the Family. And today we are reviewing Cascadia, a puzzly, nature-themed tile-laying game.
Yes, and if you enjoy games with simple rules where you get to work on your own little puzzle, then Cascadia might just be a great pick for you. And as always, we've got a link down to Cascadia down below, whatever that is.
Nailed it.
Nailed it, Ryan. Let's jump right into the review.
In Cascadia, you are building out your own landscape filled with different habitats and wildlife, puzzling everything together to score the most points for large groups of the same terrain and meeting the scoring conditions for each animal type.
Each turn has you selecting one of 4 pairings, each with 1 habitat tile and 1 wildlife token, which are then added to your personal area. Habitat tiles adjacent to any existing tile, and wildlife tokens onto any open tile that shows that animal type. A new habitat-wildlife pairing is drawn to replace what was selected, with the occasional clearing of animal tiles when there are too many of the same type.
Once all tiles have been drafted, final scores are determined by scoring how well each player grouped their habitat tiles, as well as how effectively their animals meet the conditions on the corresponding wildlife cards.
The heart of Cascadia is found in the intertwining of 2 puzzles, trying to group tiles of the same terrain type, and arranging the animals on top of those terrains. You are always forced to take a terrain tile and wildlife token that have been paired together, leading to a lot of interesting trade-offs as you weigh how much you value each of the options that are available.
Each tile that you place limits which animals can be placed there in the future, so you are always thinking ahead to how you can keep the second layer of the puzzle flexible. At the same time, you don't want to waste any turns, so you are always trying to select an animal that you are currently able to place. Inevitably, there will be times when none of the pairings work well for you, but the game gives you a tool in the form of nature tokens that can be acquired when an animal is placed on specific keystone tiles. While you can hold on to these for a point at the end of the game, it is often more valuable to spend them for the powerful abilities of either selecting a tile and animal that are not paired together or replacing the animals with new ones from the bag.
There's a certain element of push your luck as you decide how flexible to keep your animal placement options and how aggressively to pursue high-scoring wildlife arrangements that may require many of one type of animal. It is often players that can balance keeping their options open with optimizing placements across both layers of the puzzle that come out on top.
Cascadia plays well from 2 to 4 players, and if you want to get more of your puzzling fix, there is also a solid solo mode. The inviting nature theme is certainly helpful when introducing the game to new players, and there are some clever ways the theme is evoked in the wildlife scoring conditions, but it is mostly window dressing on a dual-layered spatial puzzle.
While the turn-by-turn decisions are simple and the pairings are drawn randomly, there is a lot of room to optimize your scoring and have skillful play determine the victor at the end of the game. There are some hints at interaction with the habitat scoring at the end of the game, but there is no doubt that almost the entirety of the game is focusing on building your own independent puzzle in front of you. There is a little bit of setup as you remove tiles based on the number of players, but still relatively quick to get playing.
Cascadia's low rule complexity is one of its big strengths in introducing it to new players, but there are still a handful of modern mechanisms here that need to be understood. Each game of Cascadia is going to feel fairly similar, but there's some nice variety from the different wildlife scoring conditions, and the randomly drawn tiles ensure that your landscape develops differently each time you play.
The drafting in Cascadia always requires you to take a tile and an animal together, a decision that is more interesting and nuanced than selecting just one in isolation. You're always assessing the value of 2 pieces to determine the overall value of the pair, which has a nice complexity. But the inclusion of only 4 pairs keeps the decision space from feeling like too much.
Every decision you make is with 2 different puzzles in mind, and there's a lot of satisfaction that can come from optimizing both layers of the puzzle simultaneously. That optimization feels tight, since if you always play your wildlife token, you will only ever have 3 available spaces that do not already have an animal. This also has the nice side effect of making the game easier for players that don't perfectly optimize. A missed wildlife token permanently increases the number of open tiles you will have available at any given time.
One of the key reasons Cascadia appeals to a wide range of players is its flexibility and gameplay depth. Casual players can enjoy simply selecting pairs and building their landscape without the pressure to perfectly optimize habitats and wildlife, while more strategic players can focus on maximizing every decision for a more complex, thinky experience. The game even works well with younger kids, as the rules are straightforward and there's little risk of them forgetting or breaking core mechanics, even if they don't fully optimize their scoring opportunities.
And for a game that is easy to get to the table with a variety of groups, it is a huge benefit to have different versions of the wildlife scoring that you can mix up from game to game. A lot of the variations feel very similar, but it is just enough to keep the experience fresh over repeated plays.
Since the terrain bonuses can have a big impact on scoring, strategic players will want to be aware of how they compare to other players. However, this means a lot of looking across the table and trying to count tiles, which can not only slow down the game, but can make players feel like they'd rather just wing it and see what happens, even at the expense of optimal strategic play. And now let's get to our personal ratings for Cascadia.
So I'm going to be coming in with an 8 out of 10 for Cascadia. This has been a game that I've really enjoyed the times that I've gotten it to the table, and I wondered if it was going to kind of have the longevity for me. And I think it does. Like, I think I definitely lean more into the side of like someone who wants to think harder with this type of puzzle.
Are you saying as in opposition to me?
Yeah, unlike Daniel, who his capacity just, is so much lower.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify.
Because we've played it with people that just kind of enjoy the process of it and are having fun. You're getting points kind of regardless of what you do. But you can, if you want to like optimize as much as is possible in the game, this can get pretty brain burny. And I personally like that kind of 2 layers and how do I keep this, as efficient as I can doing all this and making sure that I have the spots for the animals and everything. And so I think it just has enough interest with that dual layer puzzle to keep me coming back. I know recently we got to try the expansion to it. I did get the landmarks expansion, which I think is helping to solidify it as something that I want to continue playing. It adds some interesting things in that expansion. That I wouldn't play with people that hadn't played the game much,
right?
But had some interesting things of like, some other scoring opportunities. And actually by taking them, we talked about how if you always play efficiently, you always have 3 spots that you can put animals.
Yeah.
Well, if you play perfectly efficiently and take one of those landmarks, you're actually using up one of those and constraining yourself even more. So I think it leans even more into that, like how hard do you want to make it on yourself as you're thinking through this? But man, is it nice to have a game in the collection that you're just so kind of confident in the combination of the theme and the like simplicity of the rule set that it's just a game you feel like you can go confidently in to teach to a variety of groups. And like, I just think people are going to like this game. And it's gone over super well. I mean, with a lot of different people. So it manages to strike that balance, right? Of being easy to teach, fun to, introduce to people, and most people enjoy it, but I still am enjoying playing it and feel like I could play it over and over and not get tired of it.
Yeah.
Solid 8 out of 10 for me. I'm curious for you. You started by playing my copy. I had it originally. You've since added it to your collection, but I remember I have vivid memories of Daniel, looking pretty elated over his Cascadia tableau there. Yes,
that's right, and that is why I'm going to be coming in with an 8.5 out of 10 for Cascadia. This game for me really is kind of one of the definitive family weight style games that I have. I mean, it has so much going for it. To make it one of like the top games that I go to for maybe people newer to board games or looking for something just strategic but simple, kind of one of those gateway games. And I think first, you did talk about the theme. It really does just have an inviting theme. And, I think a lot of games right now are capitalizing on the nature theme. I think it's just like
overdone at this point.
It's like everyone's doing it. And
I tell you, Wingspan broke open the floodgates really after Wingspan was so successful.
Yeah. And so, it's got, that part is inviting. I think the fact that I can teach it so fast. I mean, I just taught it recently to another couple, and it's so awesome when you have a game that is still fun for yourself. So it's not like it's got like no rules and not very little rules, and you're like, okay, I don't really. But it's like it's got a lot of meat to it in terms of the decision space. But man, the rules are simple, and you can just it makes sense very quickly how the game plays, and so it's got that going for it. And then it's just the paired drafting is one of my favorite things. Like,
it feels like such a almost cop-out mechanism. It's like, just put two things together. Oh, suddenly we have a really interesting decision.
Yeah, I know. It really is. Well, and I think we both love just drafting in general, kind of, whether it's card drafting or chip drafting, whatever that mechanic, however it kind of plays out. But man, putting two things together, and it's not just that, okay, there's two things together that you're drafting, but then because that's both the landscape going out and an animal going out, and everything you're trying to optimize. And so you're trying to figure out the perfect way for things to come together. And so you're kind of constricted in terms of optimizing in the best way possible. And that's just for people who like to think harder and want that, this game gives it to you in spades. That it is, you got to be really good at planning. And, and there's been many times where I'm like, oh my gosh, I messed it all up. I messed this up because I, missed this. But man, when you get it, when you have a game where it all comes together and you just, knock it out of the park with optimizing, feels like, all of your animals and your landscapes your terrain, all comes together. That is so rewarding. And so for a game that is that simple, but can give such a rewarding, experience for people wanting, a little more, meat on the bone, to a game, that for me, it really hits a sweet spot in my game collection there. So
I think Daniel still dreams about his perfect hexagon of hawks that just scored. It was whatever the scoring was for like pairs across from each other, and it was like literally you could not have optimized them more.
That was just such a beautiful.
I think that play alone elevated Cascadia.
One of the greatest board gaming memories I have, Ryan. I tell you what.
There you go, right up there. Well, those are our thoughts on Cascadia, but the real question is Cascadia a game that you should check out? If you want meaningful player interaction or aren't drawn to crunchy spatial puzzles, then Cascadia might not be for you.
But if you want an accessible and broadly appealing puzzle game that is quick to teach and play and gives players the flexibility to think as little or as deeply as they prefer, then Cascadia is an excellent choice.
Hey, if you think Cascadia might just be the right pick for your group, you can check it out below, following the link in the description. Otherwise, we got some other videos here that you can check out in the channel, and we will see you in the next one.